Have you ever noticed your child flinch when their own father walks into the room? Have you ever found food hidden under your little boy's bed and realized he was preparing to survive something you couldn't see? My name is Laura, and when my son Ethan was 8 years old, he started changing in ways I couldn't explain at first. He was always a quiet child, sensitive, with big brown eyes that noticed everything around him. He loved building Lego cities that covered his entire bedroom floor, creating whole worlds with towers and roads and little people going about their days. He would spend hours reading books about dinosaurs, tracing the pictures with his finger and asking me questions I had to look up because he wanted to know everything about when they lived and how they died and why some had feathers. He hugged me so tight when I tucked him in at night that I could feel his little heart beating against mine, a rhythm that made me feel like the luckiest mother in the world. But around his 8th birthday something shifted. It was subtle at first, the kind of change you might miss if you weren't paying close attention, the kind that creeps in like fog off the lake on an early morning. He stopped wanting to be alone with his father Mark. If I left the room even for a minute to answer the phone or start dinner, Ethan would follow me like a shadow. He would stand in the doorway watching until I came back, his small hands clutching the frame, his eyes wide and worried. If Mark offered to read him a bedtime story, Ethan would shake his head and say, "Mommy does it better," in that soft voice that broke my heart a little each time. If Mark tried to take him to the park alone or for ice cream after soccer practice, Ethan would make excuses. "I'm tired." Or "My stomach hurts." Or "Can Mommy come too?" At first I thought it was a phase. Children go through stages. They cling to one parent then the other. Mark was a good dad. He coached Ethan's soccer team on Saturdays, standing on the sidelines cheering louder than anyone, teaching the boys how to pass and how to lose with grace. He built him a treehouse the summer before, spending weeks measuring and cutting wood, making sure it was perfect with a little window and a rope ladder and a sign that said Ethan's Fort. He always made sure Ethan had the newest video games or the sneakers he wanted or the backpack with the dinosaur print. He worked long hours as an architect, but he was home for dinner most nights and never missed a school play or a parent-teacher conference or a doctor's appointment. So I told myself it was normal. Kids sometimes prefer one parent for a while. I even joked with Mark about it one evening while we washed dishes together. "Looks like I'm the favorite this month." He laughed and said, "Kids change their minds like the wind, don't worry, it'll pass." I smiled and believed him because why wouldn't I? We had been married for 10 years, together for 12. We had built a life that looked solid from the outside, a nice house in a quiet suburb outside Seattle, good schools, friends, vacations every summer to the same lake cabin we rented year after year. Then I found the food. I was changing Ethan's sheets one Saturday morning while he was at a friend's house for a play date, stripping the bed to wash everything fresh for the week. When I lifted the mattress to tuck in the corners, my hand brushed something hard under the box spring. I pulled out a plastic grocery bag carefully tied at the top. Inside were 3 granola bars, 2 juice boxes, a sleeve of crackers and a half-eaten apple wrapped in a napkin so it wouldn't rot too fast. My heart stopped. I sat on the edge of the bed staring at it for a long time. Children sometimes hide snacks. I knew that from my years as a teacher, from stories parents told me about finding candy wrappers or cookies under pillows. But this felt different. This felt like preparation, like survival. The apple wrapped carefully so it would last longer. The juice boxes chosen for their straws, easy to drink without making noise. The granola bars that didn't need to be opened right away, quiet and compact. I put everything back exactly as I found it and waited, my mind racing all day with questions I didn't want to ask, questions that made my hands tremble when I tried to fold laundry or make coffee. That night after Mark was asleep, I went to Ethan's room. He was still awake reading with his little flashlight under the covers the way he had since he was 6, the beam making shadows dance on the walls like monsters he wasn't afraid of anymore. I sat on the bed and asked softly, "Honey, why are you hiding food under your bed?" He froze. His eyes filled with tears immediately. I pulled him into my lap like he was still a toddler, his body small and warm against mine, his hair smelling of the strawberry shampoo he loved. "It's okay, baby, you can tell Mommy." He buried his face in my shoulder and whispered, "Because Daddy said we're going away to the place with no windows." I felt the room spin. "What place, sweetheart?" He shook his head hard against my chest. "I can't tell. Daddy said it's a secret. Daddy said if I tell you won't come and then I'll be alone." I held him tighter, my arms trembling. "Ethan, when did Daddy say this?" "Lots of times. When you're in the shower or at the store or sleeping. He says soon we're going on a trip, just him and me. To a place far away with no windows and prehension, no doors people can open. So no one can take me from him. So we can be together forever." I felt ice crawl up my spine, cold and sharp. I kissed the top of his head and said, "Thank you for telling me, baby. You did the right thing. Go to sleep now. Mommy will keep you safe. I love you more than anything." I waited until Ethan was asleep, his breathing steady and deep, his little hand curled around his stuffed dinosaur. Then I went to the garage. Mark kept his work things, their blueprints, models. Tools, everything organized and labeled, bins the way architects like it, neat and precise. I had never paid much attention before, just glanced in when I needed a hammer or paint for a school project. But now I turned on the light and started looking carefully. Behind the shelves under the workbench in the locked cabinet he always said was just old files from past jobs. I found the key in his golf bag hidden in a side pocket behind the clubs, tucked away like something he didn't want me to find. Inside were rolls of blueprints tied with rubber bands. I unrolled the first one on the workbench, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold it steady. It was a structure underground. A concrete room 12 by 12 feet. A small bathroom with a chemical toilet, a ventilation system with filters, thick walls reinforced with steel. No windows. One steel door with 3 deadbolts on the inside. There was a cot, a small table, a hot plate for cooking. A shelf labeled food and water, 6 months supply. Another labeled books and games for Ethan. There was a note in Mark's handwriting pinned to the corner. For Ethan and me. If she tries to take him. If the courts side with her. We disappear. No one finds us. I sat on the cold floor and stared at it until the words blurred, until I had to cover my mouth to keep from crying out loud. This was not a treehouse. This was not a playroom. This was a secret place. A hidden room. He was planning to take my son and disappear forever. I found more as I searched deeper, my heart pounding harder with every discovery. Bags of canned food, batteries, flashlights, a generator still in the box, sealed and ready. A duffel with clothes in Ethan's size pajamas, underwear, socks, all new with tag sizes for the next few years, like he was planning for growth. A folder with new identities, driver's licenses, birth certificates, passports, all with different names, father and son photos that looked real enough to fool anyone, photos that made my blood run cold because they were recent, taken without me knowing. A map with a route marked in red to a piece of land in the mountains of Idaho, remote, no neighbors, no roads for miles, just wilderness and isolation. I felt sick, my stomach churning. I thought of all the times Mark had been extra affectionate lately, holding Ethan a little longer, asking about my schedule, who would notice if we were gone, how long it would take for anyone to realize we were missing. I thought of the arguments we had been having, nothing huge, just the usual wear and tear of marriage after 10 years. He traveled more for work. I was focused on Ethan's school and activities and my part-time job at the library. We argued about money, about time, about feeling disconnected, about how he wanted another child and I didn't, about how he said I was pulling away. But nothing that prepared me for this, nothing that made me think he would plan something so dark, so complete, so final. I knew I had to get out that night while he was sleeping. I packed 2 small bags, one for me, one for Ethan, only what we needed: clothes, documents, cash, the important papers from the safe. I wrote a note for my sister Emily to pick up the dog and explained in a phone call later when it was safe. I called her from the landline, whispered the plan, my voice shaking so badly I could barely get the words out. She said she would be waiting 2 blocks away at midnight with her car running, lights off, ready to go. I carried Ethan to the car, still asleep, wrapped in his blanket, his head heavy on my shoulder, his breath warm against my neck. I buckled him and kissed his forehead, whispered, "We're going on an adventure, baby, everything will be okay." I went back for the bags. And Mark was standing in the hallway, the light from the street lamp cutting across his face, making him look like a stranger, someone I didn't recognize. He said, "Laura, where are you going with our son?" His voice calm, too calm, the way it got when he was holding back anger, when he was calculating every word. I froze. He stepped closer. His voice was calm, too calm. "You found it, didn't you? The room. It's for his safety, Laura. The world is dangerous. People try to take children away from their fathers. Courts favor mothers. I won't let that happen." I said, "Mark, this is not safety, this is wrong, this is not what fathers do." He smiled, the same smile he used when he coached soccer, when he thought he had everything under control, when he believed he was right and everyone else was wrong. "No, Laura, this is love. Real love. Protecting what's mine." He took another step. I backed toward the door. "Ethan is not yours to take. He is our son." He said, "No. He is my son. And you have been trying to turn him against me. I see how he clings to you. How he doesn't want to be alone with me. I have to fix that. I have to take him where it's just us. Where he will learn to love me again, where no one can interfere, where he will see that I am the one who truly cares." I turned and ran. He lunged. I made it to the car, slammed the door, locked it. He pounded on the window, screaming my name, screaming that I couldn't take his son, screaming that I would regret this. I started the engine. Ethan woke up crying, "Mommy, what's happening? What's Daddy doing?" I drove, tears streaming down my face. My sister was waiting. We switched cars. We disappeared into the night. The police found the secret room 3 days later, when I finally felt safe enough to tell them everything. My sister Emily had driven us through the night to her house in a quiet town 2 states away, a place Mark had never visited, a place with no connection to our old life. She kept the lights low and the curtains drawn while I sat at her kitchen table with a cup of tea I couldn't drink and a detective named Sarah Miller who listened without interrupting, her face growing harder with every detail, her pen moving steadily across her notebook. I told her about the food under the bed, Ethan's whispered secret that still echoed in my ears, the blueprints in the garage, the supplies, the fake IDs, the map with the red line leading to nowhere. I showed her the photos I had taken with my phone before we fled, my hand still shaking as I scrolled through them. Detective Miller listened, her face growing harder with every detail, her pen moving steadily across her notebook. When I finished, she closed the notebook and said, "Laura, you did the right thing getting out. This isn't just a custody dispute. This is planned disappearance. We're going to find him. We're going to make sure he never comes near Ethan again." They searched our house the next morning. Mark was already gone. He had left for work as usual, kissed me goodbye like nothing was wrong, but never arrived at the office. His car was found abandoned at a rest stop 2 hours north, keys still in the ignition. Inside the garage they found exactly what I described. The blueprints rolled neatly in the cabinet, labeled undated. The bags of food, water purification tablets, medical supplies, everything organized like a project he was proud of. The generator, the duffel with Ethan's clothes carefully folded, sizes for the next few years. The folder with new identities, the passports with photos that made my blood run cold because they looked so real, so official. The map with the route highlighted and notes in Mark's handwriting about travel times and places to avoid cameras, places to switch cars, places to disappear. They found a journal too, hidden under a false bottom in a drawer. Pages of entries about how the courts were biased, how mothers always won, how Ethan was being poisoned against him by my influence, how he had to act before it was too late, before Ethan forgot who his real parent was. Entries about watching Ethan sleep, about how perfect it would be when it was just the two of them, no one to interfere, no one to tell Ethan lies, no one to come between father and son. Reading those pages later in court made me physically ill, made me realize how deep the obsession had gone, how long he had been planning this in the quiet hours while I slept beside him, thinking we were safe, thinking our biggest problem was choosing paint colors or planning vacations. Mark was arrested 6 weeks later in a small town in Montana. He had been living under one of the fake names, working cash jobs on construction sites, keeping his head down, blending in. He looked thinner, unshaven, nothing like the polished architect I had married, the man who wore tailored shirts and smiled for photos at company events. He didn't fight the arrest. He just asked if Ethan was okay, if he could see him, if he could explain. The trial was long and painful, every day a reminder of how close we had come to losing everything, how one more night might have been too late. The prosecution laid out everything: the secret room plans, the supplies, the journal, the fake documents. They called experts to explain how complete the plan was, how it wasn't a fantasy but a serious intention, how every detail had been thought through over months, maybe years. Mark's defense tried to paint him as a loving father pushed to extremes by fear of losing his son. They brought up our arguments, my reluctance to have another child, the way Ethan had started pulling away, the distance that had grown between us over the years. They made it sound like Mark was the victim of a broken system, a father doing what any desperate parent might do when they felt their child slipping away. But the jury saw the journal. They saw the underground room designed to keep a child hidden forever, away from light, away from the world, away from me. They deliberated for less than 2 days. Guilty on all counts: attempted taking of a child, conspiracy, child endangerment, use of false documents. The sentence was 20 years, with possibility of parole after 15. Ethan and I started over. We moved 3 times in the first year, always looking over our shoulders, always checking the locks twice, always jumping at shadows, always wondering if today was the day he found us. We changed our names legally, got new social security numbers, knew everything, a fresh start in a place where no one knew our story, where we could breathe without fear. Ethan is 10 now. He still sleeps with the light on most nights. He still goes to therapy twice a week, talking to a kind woman named Dr. Patel who specializes in trauma, who helps him draw pictures of his feelings and talk about the fear that sometimes creeps back in when he hears a car door slam or a voice that sounds like his father's. He draws pictures sometimes of a little boy in a dark room with no windows, but more often now he draws our new apartment with big bright windows and me and him and our dog Max sitting on the couch watching movies or playing board games. He plays soccer again, makes friends, laughs loud and easy, scores goals and celebrates with his teammates like any other kid. But some nights he wakes up crying, asking if Daddy is coming to take him, if the bad place is real, if I will let him go. I hold him and say, no baby, he can't, he's far away and we are safe. The police made sure of it, the courts made sure of it, and I mean it with every fiber of my being. I work part-time at a library now, shelving books and helping kids find stories that make them feel brave, stories about heroes who escape and survive and build new lives, stories that remind me every day why I did what I did. I garden on my little balcony, grow tomatoes and basil and flowers that bloom no matter what, reminders that life keeps going, that beauty finds a way even after the darkest nights. I talk to my sister Emily every day. She was my rock through everything, the one who didn't hesitate when I called in the night, the one who drove without questions and held me while I cried. My parents visit when they can, bringing homemade cookies and too many hugs and stories about when I was little to make Ethan laugh, to give him the kind of family memories that are warm and safe. We don't talk about Mark anymore. His letters come to a P.O. box the police monitor. I don't read them. Ethan doesn't know they exist yet. One day when he's older I'll tell him the whole story, but not now. Now he needs to be a kid, to run and play and believe the world is good, to trust that the people who love him will always keep him in the light. I look at my son and I know I did the right thing. Love does not build secret rooms with no windows. Love does not hide food under beds in preparation for running. Love does not take children away in the night to places no one can find. Real love lets the light in. Real love keeps you safe, not trapped. Real love chooses the hard path of sharing and therapy and healing instead of the dark path of possession and control. I saved my son that night, but he saved me too. He gave me the courage to see the truth, to act before it was too late, to be the mother he needed when everything was falling apart. We have a life now, small and quiet and ours. Windows everywhere. Light pouring in. No secrets. No shadows. Just us, moving forward, one day at a time, one breath at a time, one sunrise at a time. So if your child flinches at a touch that should feel safe. If they whisper secrets that chill your blood. Listen. Believe them. Run. Because some fathers don't protect their children. They possess them. And the only way to save your child is to be braver than you ever thought you could be. If this story chilled you, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment below if you have ever had to protect a child from the person who should have been their safety. Subscribe for more real-life stories of survival, courage, and escape. Thank you for listening. Stay safe. And always trust your child.